Good afternoon, sir.
Very good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot my cell phone at my home, and if you would have called me, so nobody would have replied.
Oh, okay. No. I was just about to call, sir, not yet called.
Yeah, but I have left my mobile at home. I'm right now in the department.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, good afternoon, all the participants. Today, for the third session, we are having Professor Tez Pratap Singh. He is professor in the Department of Political Science, Banaras University. He is a senior faculty there. And today is going to talk on internationalization of higher education and its impact on the society. Nowadays, we are talking about internationalization of education and all those things. So, sir is going to elaborate on all those points. And the session is going to be very relevant for all of us. So, be attentive and keep on asking questions to sir. And sir, thanks for sparing your time for us and accepting our request to be here. So, sir, now time is yours. You may start. And just to want to inform you that Professor Manoj Verma is coordinator of the course, but he's on leave today, so he's not here. And I'm co-coordinator of this program. I'm from Department of Commerce. So, sir, now time is yours. You can start, sir.
Thank you so much, Bhartendu ji. And I spoke to
Manoj.
Dr. Manoj ji. He's in Banaras only.
Okay.
Attending a conference here.
Yeah, yes.
So the topic which Manoj ji has given me, that is the globalization of higher education. Just a minute. Sorry, I'm right now sitting in my chamber here in the department. And the door was open, so unnecessarily I was making noise. So I presume all are the young professors here. They are young faculty members?
Yes. New ones, all new faculty members.
Yeah, all the new faculty members, because the program itself is called induction program. So they are being inducted in our fraternity. We are very old senior professors here. We are now almost on way out. So firstly, my best wishes to all the young faculty members who are joining this profession. And to me, it seems that this is the most satisfying profession. And after 30 years of my teaching experience, I can say that this is probably the noblest profession, best profession. You can have your peace of mind, and you can, and the kind of autonomy, the independence you enjoy, that is not possible in other professions. So welcome to our profession, all the young faculty members. The topic, as repeatedly has been said, is globalizations of higher education. So I will be speaking here and there many things. In fact, it is not very coherent but fragmented views and ideas on the internationalization of higher education. And I will try to make it a systematic presentation here. So firstly, I will talk about what is the internationalization of higher education and globalization of higher education. Whether these two are the same, the synonym, or there's a difference between these two. So our NEP, National Education Policy 2020s, talks about the internationalization of higher education. So when NEP talks about the internationalization of higher education, so here the main focus is on curbing the commercialization of higher education. Means the National Education Policy, our national education policy maker wants to internationalize higher education system in India, but at the same time they want to prevent the commercialization of higher education in India, and that is why National Education Policy categorically says that its objective is to curb the commercialization. So then by internationalization they mean that Indian higher education system should be integrated with the global higher education system. It should become a part of that, and the best global practices should be adopted here. So Indian higher education system should be exposed to the global higher education institution, and we must learn the best practices which are prevalent over there. So, and keeping that thing in mind, the national education policy talks about allowing the leading 100 top higher education institutions in the world to have their offshore campuses, to have their campuses in India. But on the one hand, they allow these top 100 world universities to have their campuses in India. But at the same time, they also say this thing that they will not be the profit making institution. So whatever profit they will make, that will be reinvested here in the further development of the higher education. They can't make the profit and siphon off the money to their country. So the profits can't be transferred there. So some restrictions had been imposed so that this is not leading to the commercialization of the higher education in the country by the influx of by the coming of many global leading higher education institutions. So curbing commercialization is one of the objectives. And at the same time, the national education policy also talks about allowing the leading Indian institutions to have their overseas campuses. So, so the what we'll learn from our experiences, the what we'll learn from our higher education institution, and we'll also learn from them. So there will be give and take. Later on, I will be talking about how this internationalization is happening. But before that, I will spoke about the globalization of higher education. So how come this globalization of higher education is different from the internationalization of higher education? We all know the globalization is one of the phase of the capitalist development in the world. So the latest phase of capitalist development is called is the age of globalization. Earlier, in this globalization, it has been defined that the restriction, any restriction on the movement of goods, products, services, capital, technology, ideas will be removed. Means unrestricted movement of goods, services. हाँ खुला हुआ है
फोन उठाएंगे ना
नहीं मैडम
ना ये वो व्हाट्सएप उठाएंगे
I'm just
आपने किसी चेहरे को शीशे को भेजिए हमारे को बड़ा करने के लिए
I'm sorry for distraction. My head of the department had visited me in my chamber, so a slight distraction. Anyway, so when in the globalization, the unrestricted movement of goods, services, products, technology, capital, this has been defined as the age of globalization. And this is based, the globalization theory is based on theory of comparative advantage. Means all those economies which can produce the best quality products at the lower level of cost, they should be allowed to produce those things. And their argument is that every country, every economy has certain advantages in certain fields here. So France can make the best quality of champagne. France can make the best quality of wine. Chile can make the best quality of wine. In the same way, some other country can make some, Germany can make a good quality of car. Japan can make a good electronic goods, etc. So every country, every economy has certain advantage in certain area of production. So by going by theory of comparative advantage, so all the economies should focus on producing, manufacturing those things which will, which the cost of production will be very low, and secondly, the quality will be very high. So if these two criteria are met, so these things would be manufactured, produced there only, and the and no thing should be manufactured, no product should be produced if its quality is inferior and the cost of production is very high. In this way, every economy will specialize in certain products, and the world will be an interdependent world. They will be importing those things which they can't produce efficiently, uh, quality with maintaining the good quality and keeping the cost of production low. So those things should be imported from other countries, and whatever they can produce efficiently, good quality, maintaining good quality, and also keeping the cost of production low. So they should export those products to other countries. In this way, an interconnected world will be created. I'm a student of international relations. We have a theory of complex interdependence. So in this way, a complex interdependent world will be created. The trade, commerce, and business will bring together all the nations, and the whole world, the whole planet will be one world. Now, in this globalization, the services is one of the component because the globalization talks about the unrestricted movement of products. At the same time, it also talks about the unrestricted movement of services because services are important component of economy. And as far as India is concerned, we know that our contribution and our expertise in the service sector is much better than the manufacturing sector. And India is also known as a global back office because the service sector is so strong here. So services is also an item of the globalization, and this has been recognized by many institutions of global governance. Here I am referring to the GATT, General Agreement of Trade and Tariff. So General Agreement of Trade and Tariff recognize that services are also part of the trade. And in the services, the GATT talked about mainly two services, that is health and education. So health is also an important service and education is also an important service. GATT recognize it as a commodity. So like any commodity, the health and education should be also treated as a commodity. And like any commodity, the health and education can also be traded, can also be exchanged, can also be bought, can also be sold. So even before the formation of WTO, the GATT is the predecessor of WTO. The services were recognized as a product, and among these services, the health and education were important services. So GATT has commodified the services, and in this commodification, education has also been commodified, and it has become an item of trade, item of exchange between the different nations, the different countries. Now the GATT successor body, the WTO, also recognizes education to be a service, an important service, and trade can happen, the business can happen, the commerce can happen in the education sector also. So when we are talking about the commerce, business, trade, import, export, exchange, then naturally the motive which is driving this whole process, it is the profit motive. Unless and until the profit motive is not there, no investor, no entrepreneur, no businessman will make any investment in the field of education sector. So when we talk about the globalization of the higher education, so the profit motive becomes the integral part of the globalization of higher education, because if any investor who is putting money in the education sector or health sector, or for that matter any sector, for that matter any business, any commerce, etc. So their main consideration is the profit. If they are not making any profit, naturally they will not invest even a single paisa, single dollar, single pound, etc. So even this education is also a kind of business, which like any other business is driven by profit motive. So if you are talking about the globalization, so commercialization of education cannot be avoided. On the other hand, if you're talking about the internationalization of higher education, so here education is treated as a public good. Since education is a public good, so it is the responsibility of the state to make this public good available to all the students. So here the responsibility of the states becomes important, and this can't be governed by the profit motive. So here in internationalization, it becomes the responsibility of all the states that their citizens must be provided the best possible education, so that they can be developed as a good human being, as a good citizen, etc. For the all-round development of the citizen, the education is important. So, when we talk about the globalization of higher education, then it is a profit motive-driven process. And we talk about the internationalization of higher education, then it becomes a public good. And once it is a public good, becomes a public good, it becomes the responsibility of all the states to provide good quality education, affordable education to all their citizens. So these two things I wanted to make it clear in the beginning. Now I'm coming to this thing, how this internet hereafter I will be using globalization international as the interchangeable term. I will be talking about the internationalization only. Because then again it is a terminological debate. Yeah. But for all practical purposes, when we say internationalization of higher education or globalization of higher education, in most of the situation, usually we use it as an interchangeable term. Though these two terms are different, which I have already discussed, explained. Now coming to the internationalization or globalization of higher education, so it happens through three processes. Madam Samil, HOD, sir. Sorry. So first is the movement of the student. Movement of the student from one country to another country. The second component is the movement of faculty from one country to another country. And third is the movement of courses from one country to another country. And the fourth is the movement of institutions from one country to another country. So the unrestricted movement of the students, faculty, courses, as well as institutions. So this process, you can call it as a globalization of higher education or internationalization of higher education. So first I will be talking about movement of the students. We all know that large number of students are going from third world countries to first world countries for their higher education. And this is a profitable business for first world countries. You know this America, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, many European countries, they are making huge money by imparting education to foreign students. Our own country, India itself, is the leading exporter of the students to different destinations. But I will not say that this is a one-way process, that third world countries, the students are going to the first world. The first world countries, the students are also coming to the third world, but their number is insignificant. If you compare, the figure is very low. Just I am giving you the example of India. Every year, more than 5 lakh students are going to different countries of the world. And around more than 20 lakh students are studying in different countries of the world. So this is one figure. We are sending more than 20 lakhs to different countries. They are they are enrolled for higher education in different countries. On the other hand, we are receiving only less than 50,000 students. 49,000 something is the figure. Means we are receiving only 49,000, less than 50,000 students, but sending more than 20 lakh students to different countries for higher education. So you see this. So anyway, in comparison to 20 lakh, 50,000, less than 50,000, nothing. So in a way, you can say that this migration of the student is largely from third world country to the first world country. If you look at the global scene, then you will find China has been the leading exporter of these students. You must be knowing that China sends large number of students than India. Recently, I read a report that in America, that Indian student this year has first time outnumbered Chinese students. So gradually, the number of Chinese students going abroad for higher education is gradually probably stagnating or coming down. But but Indian students, this trend is still continuing. The large number of students are going abroad for higher education. In a way, this is also shameful for us because India has been the higher education destination in the ancient time. We all are aware of the Nalanda, Takshila, Vikramshila, Vallavi. These were the institutions globally popular. And in Takshila and Nalanda, more than 10,000 students were there for higher education, and they came from all over the world. They came from different countries of the world. The Chinese were there. All countries, almost some of them were there. And we are familiar with the Fahim and many scholars, Chinese scholars and travelers who came to India, and they were students either in Nalanda, Takshila, etc. So the point I'm making here that India was attracting students from abroad in the ancient time. It was a popular destination for higher education. And you see the position now, instead of attracting foreign students in my country, in fact, we are largely the exporter of these students to other countries. The higher education institutions of Australia, Canada, America, UK, largely they are filled by the Indian students or Asian students or Chinese students. So this is one. Then again, if you look at this movement of the students from third world to the first world, among the first world, their picture is not uniform. These Commonwealth countries, where Commonwealth countries means the countries which have been the British colony, and where the medium of instruction is English, so they attract large number of students. Over the years, English has emerged as a global language. So most of the overseas students, they prefer to have their higher education in English only. And since American universities, United Kingdom universities, Australia universities, and Canadian universities, and New Zealand, they offer higher education in English medium. That is why the most popular destination for higher education are only English-speaking countries. And they have a lot, the bulk of the students going abroad for higher education, they go to the English-speaking country, mainly US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, etc. But that doesn't mean that other developed countries are not attracting students. The Francophone Africa, you have many African countries who are the colonies of the France, and French is the medium of instruction in higher education over there. So these Francophone countries, the Francophone countries, some countries of Asia are also part of that. So all those who are the colonies of France, they are called Francophone countries. So students from Francophone countries, they prefer France rather than English-speaking countries. So students from many African countries who are the colony of France, they are going to. And then again, coming to the Middle East, the West Asia, the Lebanon, and etc. So because of some reasons, the France is the preferred destination for them. Many students from Syria, Lebanon, the so-called Middle East, the Northern Africa, etc. They prefer France. So large number of Middle Eastern countries, students are also going to France. Then Germany is also popular, but Germany is popular in the East Europe. So many students from East European countries, the Central European countries, they prefer Germany rather than France and Britain. or English speaking countries. So, preferred destination for East European students is German and Central European, East Europe and Central Europe. Their preferred destination is Germany. Then again, Russia is also a popular destination, but the Russia is popular among all those countries who were once a part of the Soviet Union. So since during Soviet period, the medium of instruction in all these countries has become Russian language. So they know their familiarity with the Russian language has enabled them to go to Russia rather than other countries for higher education. So Russia is also attracting students from which were the erstwhile earlier the part of the Soviet Union. Now China has also gradually emerging and catching up very fast as a popular destination for education. So many East Asian countries, Southeast Asian countries, and even African countries also, they are preferring China for higher education. You will be surprised to know that more than 40,000 Indian students are also there in China. Rather than we attracting students from China, which we used to attract in the ancient past, now we are sending around 40,000 students to China. Around 40,000 are there. So, and this is another, while talking about the Indian students, it's very painful that the kind of treatment Indian students are getting abroad. That is another issue of concern for our country. Yeah. You see that if any problem breaks out anywhere in this country, so the first victim of these global crises are Indian students. So as you know that when coronavirus broke out in China, so it was a great challenge to the government of India how to bring back the Indian students trapped in the China. Even in Wuhan also there are a large number of students were there. Once these students were safely evacuated from China to then again another problem came how to send them back, because China was not accepting them, because China is pursuing the policy of vaccine nationalism. So they allow only those people to visit China who have taken the Chinese vaccine. And since Chinese vaccines are not available in India and they don't recognize our vaccine, so our vaccinated students, they were not ready to accept. So somehow Indian diplomacy eventually have succeeded to send them back. Now Indian students are gradually going back to China to complete their education, etc. So it's very sad part also that Corona broke out and government has many challenges. One challenge was how to bring back the Indian students trapped in China. Same thing, you are familiar with the Ukraine crisis also. When Ukraine crisis broke out, then we found that many Indian students were trapped in Ukraine. And then government of India was compelled to start the Operation Ganga, that has been named Operation Ganga, to bring back the Indian students trapped in Ukraine, in that from war zone. We all are familiar with that story. Yeah? So somehow they were brought back. Then again, now Indian students are demanding either they should be admitted in Indian medical colleges, and if not, so they should be allowed to go to Ukraine, since there is no direct flight. So now they are demanding that somehow government should manage to send them to Ukraine through different countries, neighboring countries. Now the point I'm making here, Indian students are taking so much risk that even they are ready to study in the war zone also. So this is the pathetic condition. I feel very sorry for our country, for our own citizens, that they are taking so much risk to go for higher education in this kind of country. And we all know that these and Indian students are everywhere. Even they are in the Philippines, even they are in the Malaysia, even they are in most of the Southeast Asian countries, even they are in the many Central Asian countries also, and Ukraine, everywhere, Georgia. Now Indian students, they are going everywhere. And our government of India has not been able to provide them education at home. And why they are going there? You will, if you look at the students, most of them are from the lower middle class. Some are very from poor class, and even they are going to this in these countries for medical education, particularly because the cost of medical education in those countries is much cheaper than India. The Indian medical education is very costly; they can't afford it in India. Since it is affordable, cheaper, much cheaper, so they go to abroad for medical education. So it's a great challenge to our country. So, is Ukraine crisis, coronavirus crisis, all the time the first victim is the Indian students. The government of India faces the problem, how to bring them back. I think a decade back, there was a problem with the Indian student in Australia, also the problem of racism. Many Indian students were assaulted over there, and it was a big racial issue. Indian and Australian diplomatic relations were strained because of the treatment Indian students are getting over there. They were being assaulted, etc. So one of my Australian friend wrote to me that why Indian students are coming to Australia, because her argument was, she has written in her mail that I know many Indians and they are good, they are intelligent, and she has written, though she has not been to India, but she has some familiarity of the Indian institutions, the IITs, the IIM, etc. They are pretty good institutions. So why Indian students are leaving their own country and coming to the Australia for higher education? Because Australia is not offering a value for their money. So I replied her mail. Because in fact that she wrote the mail firstly to Shashi Tharoor, because we met in a conference in Salzburg, Austria. But since Shashi Tharoor did not reply, so the same mail she forwarded to me that Tharoor did not reply, so probably you will reply. So I wrote to her, since Tharoor is the minister and very busy, so don't expect any kind of reply from him, because Indian ministers are not like Australian ministers. They receive plenty of mails, etc. अभी मैं क्लास ले रहा हूँ, बाद में आना. I'm sorry, sitting in my chamber, it's very difficult all the time. Some people come. So, so I wrote to her that it is not the best and brightest of Indian students who are going to Australia for study. In fact, it is the wealthy Indians who can afford higher education there. They are going for higher education in those countries. And their another objective is, probably Australia is very liberal in granting the citizenship. So many go to Australia for higher education for citizenship. And say they are definitely not the best and brightest who are going over there. The best and brightest remains in India. They get admission in IIT, IIM, top institutions of the country. They don't go to Australia, New Zealand, or for that matter, many other countries. Anyway, the point I'm making here that 10 million, almost 1 crore students are crossing their national boundaries for higher education in other countries. So, so these and gradually these numbers are rising as the countries are coming together here. So this is one aspect of the globalization of higher education or internationalization of higher education. Now the second component, that is the movement of the faculty, the mobility of the faculty. So you see now increasingly the faculties are moving from one country to other country. You will find that many foreigners teaching in our own university. There are many private universities. There are many foreign teachers also, and some come in the exchange program, the teachers exchange program. Every country has this teachers program. The teachers from India go abroad, and the teachers from abroad, they come to India. So this is a both way process. Cultural exchange program is there. And now the government of India has also started a program to bring back the teachers who are teaching in the Western universities, particularly in America, United Kingdom, and other European countries. So, but Indian government has not been so successful in bringing back the Indian faculty, Indian origin faculty teaching in the Western universities. But here, Chinese example is very good. China has succeeded in bringing the Chinese origin professor in American universities, in the Western universities, to their country. But China has a deep pocket. Since China has a deep pocket, China can pay their Chinese origin teachers who are teaching in the Western universities. They are offering more than double salary. They are providing all kind of infrastructural facilities, basic amenities. So China has succeeded in bringing many Chinese origin professors teaching in foreign universities to their country. And for following Chinese model, India is also trying to do that. I hope that probably Indian project will also eventually succeed, and India will be able to bring back many capable, competent teachers who studied in India, but now they have taken the teaching assignment in foreign countries. So it is happening in all the countries. So now we find increasingly the movement of teachers, faculty, researchers from one country. Another thing is happening right now is the joint collaboration. So now joint collaboration is also happening. So research projects are taken up in different countries. So now most of the research has become a joint collaborative research project. So and this best example is the corona vaccine example. This corona vaccine, we all know, has been created in the record time of 1 year. This is the first time uh, in the global history that a vaccine has been created in a record time of 1 year, because the last pandemic which happened 1 century back, so that is called Spanish flu. So it took more than a decade to come out with a vaccine. Yeah. But this time, this corona vaccine has been created in a record time of 1 year, and it has been possible because of the international effort, global effort, the collaborative effort. Yeah. So all the countries were collaborating with each other. So despite this vaccine nationalism practiced by many countries, but despite this nationalism and being concerned about how to be first in making vaccine and making profit, etc. But despite these things, the collaboration happened at the global scale, and the result was that we had a vaccine within it. Even in the Indian vaccine, this most popular vaccines here, which was administered here, it was in fact the R&D, the research and development happened in the Oxford, and then it was the contract was given to Poonawalla, and so manufacturing happened in India, but R&D, research and development, and the creation of the vaccine testing trial, etc. It all happened in Europe, in mainly United Kingdom. So the point I'm making here that this vaccine has been one recent example of the result of regional, global, international collaborative project. So now we are finding that scientists of different countries are now collaborating in many research projects. So researchers are collaborating at global scale, national scale. The teachers are moving from one country to another country. So now we are, along with the students' mobility, we are finding the faculty mobility also. And now probably we are going to have an international pool of best and brightest faculty members, and they can move from one country to another country. So this is so if student mobility is one part, faculty mobility. Now coming to the third. Now we have this courses mobility. Now courses are also moving. The semesters are also moving here. So here the best example is the twinning program. So many universities have launched the twinning program. In the twinning program, some semesters or some years are being taught in one university, and some other semesters are taught in another university. Many Indian universities, particularly private universities, they have collaborated with the foreign countries. So their students study 1 or 2 years in Indian university, and then they go to some foreign country. They study 1 semester or 2 semesters there, and then they come back and complete their study. So in this way, and students are moving for some courses for some semester from one country to another country, and in this sometimes the degree is awarded jointly by both the universities, and sometimes the degree is awarded by only one country. So now the national education policy also talks about the academic bank of credit, ABC. So that bank of credit has already been created. So credit earned in one country or in one university, that will be credited over there, and that can be transferred here and there. So now the tuning program is increasingly getting popular. The public universities has been slow in adopting it, but all the private universities almost they have adopted it. Manipal has adopted it. The Christ University and Asoka University, many private universities there. So large number of now large number of private universities are coming up in this country also. So they are adopting tuning program. And the same way, this tuning program has become popular all over the world. So, so now the courses are also moving. But when I say that courses are moving, I mean that the students go for some course in this country to that country. Students go for 1 semester or 2 semester in from this country to that country. So by that I mean the mobility and the movement of the courses. So that is the third component of the internationalization, globalization, and parity. Now coming to the fourth component, and that is the mobility of the institutions here. Now institutions are also moving from one country to another country. Now you see all the global popular universities, they are having the overseas campuses. All the leading American universities, the leading British universities, the European universities, Australian, etc. They are having their overseas campuses. So, so now these institutions are also moving here. And now the government of India, as I said in the beginning of my presentation, they have allowed that leading universities of India can have their overseas campuses there. So they, it is quite possible that IITs, IIM, probably my own university, Banaras University, or your own university, Mizoram University, can have their campus overseas there. So, and many overseas countries are also having their campus in other countries. This movement of university, this has led to another new phenomenon that is called educational hub. So many educational hub has been created here. So while talking about the educational hub, over the years, in West Asia and East Asia and Southeast Asia, in these three regions, many educational hub has come up recently. So what are those educational hubs? So in Middle East, in West Asia, you have Dubai, you have Doha, you have Abu Dhabi. So Abu Dhabi, Doha, and Dubai, these three places have invited all the universities of the world to have their campuses in their country. So they have designated the land, they are providing all kind of facilities, attracting the university education institutions to come over there and have their campuses. And they have succeeded in attracting many campuses over there. So they have Dubai Knowledge Hub, something like that. They have Doha, Abu Dhabi, and the same way in Southeast Asia, they have Singapore, they have Kuala Lumpur. Singapore has emerged as education hub. Kuala Lumpur has emerged as education hub. Even our own Manipal is having their institutions in Singapore, in Kuala Lumpur, in Dubai also. Many Indian institutions are having their overseas campuses. This VIT, Vellore Institute of Technology, is having their courses. DY Patil is having their overseas campuses. And MIT is the main Indian academic institutions. We are having around 50 institutions out of this country. Even they are having their campuses in Europe and America also. So MIT is there. Manipal group of institutions are there. DY Patil is there. So there are many. So they are having, all of them are private. And since national education policy talks about also this thing that the public institutions will also have their overseas campuses. So these are not far off when the public universities will also have their overseas campuses. So these, and Hong Kong has also emerged as an education hub. So Hong Kong, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur in the East Asia, Southeast Asia, and Doha, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi in West Asia. And some other countries have also tried to have this education hub. So now this has become a global norm, a global practice, and all the countries are engaged in creating education hub. So these education hub are successful because of mainly two reasons. Uh, because if students are getting education in the leading universities of the world in by remaining in their own cultural zone, so that is more helpful to them, more advantageous to them. Because you see the West, these Arab students, the West Asian students, the Islamic countries students, they find it difficult in the post 9/11 world to study in America and Europe there. Because Islamophobia is there. Islamic students are targeted because of 9/11 incident, etc. So many Arab students instead of going to first world academic institutions to get their education in America, England, Europe, etc. They prefer to study in the leading global institutions who are based in Dubai, Doha, Abu Dhabi, etc. Because if they are because they are a student of the leading institutions, but they have not left their cultural zone, they have not left their region, etc. So they feel more comfortable. They're getting degree from the world's best institution by remaining in their own region, not going out of their cultural zone, etc. The same thing can be said about the Southeast Asian thing, because in these institutions, many Chinese students come, Southeast Asian students come from this country to that country. So this global education hub is another development in the field of mobility of the higher education institutions in the world. So, so these are the four components when we talk about the internationalization or globalization of higher education. So we talk about the mobility of the students, mobility of the faculty, mobility of the courses, and mobility of the institutions. So these four mobility, when they come together, we call it as a globalization of higher education or internationalization of higher education. One more development I will talk about in the realm of higher education, that is the digital education. So now digital education on and off, it was being discussed, it was being talked, and we all are familiar that UGC before the outbreak of the corona has recommended that now universities should adopt the digital mode also, online mode also, and some percentage of the teaching should be done through digital mode, online mode. So it was a vehement protest from the teaching community, from the university system, etc., from all the stakeholders, that the government wants to cut down the expenditure, spending, want to bring down the number of faculty, etc., and they're promoting digital education. So they were unanimous in saying no to digital education, to online education, online classes, etc. But nobody knew the corona will come, and which was being registered, it will be welcomed. So with the outbreak of corona, we were left with no options, and we introduced, forget about 10-20% online classes, we introduced 100% online classes, and it was hugely success also. And all of a sudden, we were not very familiar with the digital mode, etc. But now all the students are familiar, even from the nursery level student to the higher education level, everybody is familiar with online education. So rather than being a exception, this online education has become a norm over the years, particularly in the corona or post-corona period. If you have come in the post-corona period, I don't know whether it is corona period or it is post-corona period. It is debatable. So this digital education, so there are many educationists who have said that future belongs to the digital education. One educationist has gone to the extent of saying that in the next 100 years, in the next century, all the brick and mortar universities will come to an end. They will disappear from the global scene. His prediction is that hardly 10 universities will survive. The brick and mortar universities, the traditional universities which we have in mind. And he said the rest of the universities will become online, the digital universities. So he said the future belongs to the digital university, because the online courses, the digital courses are increasingly getting popular. And if you this MOOC that is called a course is called MOOC, massive online courses. So massive online the digital courses, the MOOC courses, large number of students have enrolled for these online courses. America is the number one as far as the number of students who have enrolled for these MOOC courses, the online courses. And the second after America, the second country where the large number of students enrolled is India. China comes after that. So in America, India, China, these are leading countries where the students have enrolled for online courses, that MOOC courses. So on that basis, say that since in MOOC courses, the online courses, the convenience is that you can study it from the comfort of your home as per your convenience, etc. So so education is becoming digitalized, it is becoming digital. So there are many, it will be cost effective also, cheaper also, it can be learned as per our own convenience, etc. So there are many benefits have been enumerated, have been told. So this is the and now Government of India is also not far behind. We are also going for the National Digital University. Probably Ministry of Education has come up with the blueprint, and the government is also in the process of appointing someone, the Vice Chancellor and the faculty and the creation of. So in Government of India is also going for National Digital University. It is coming very soon, but the process has already started. So now the digitalization is the norm everywhere. So now, while talking about this gentleman's prediction that the brick and mortar institution will just disappear, I don't agree with this argument. Because in 70s, 80s, when the correspondence course started, the distance education started. Even at that time, also there were many doomsayers. They were saying that now the future is the distance education, the future is the correspondence courses. And gradually these traditional courses will be replaced by the correspondence courses. Again, correspondence courses are cheaper, convenient, anybody can study as per his convenience, etc., while doing something else, etc. So many benefits of the correspondence education, the distance education were talked about at that time. But nothing of the sort has happened here. Distance education is still at the same position. It is in no position to threaten the traditional universities. I think whatever happened with the distance education, the correspondence courses, the same thing happened with the online courses also, the digital education also. Because one study has been done where the it was examined who have enrolled for the MOOC courses, online courses. It was found that all those people who have enrolled for the online courses, majority of them already had graduation or post-graduation degree from some traditional university. And majority of them have enrolled for certain skills, for certain certificate courses, 6-month courses, 1-year courses, etc. They have not gone for a 3-year undergraduate course, 2-year master's course, or 5-year integrated digital course. So these things will happen in the traditional universities only. But as far as 1 semester course is concerned, 1-year course is concerned, definitely the digital mode will become popular. So students are enrolling, people are enrolling to learn certain skills through online courses, but they are not going to replace the traditional universities. So I don't agree with this prediction that after 100 years only 10 universities will survive and rest of them will disappear. Anyway, so this is another development. Also, I think half an hour has been left, so better I should conclude so that we can have some discussion also over whatever I have said, and or anything which I have not been able to touch, which relates to globalizations and the internationalizations of higher education. So these are the developments I have touched all the areas where the internationalization is happening, globalization is happening. Now I'm concluding by this thing that with this that higher education is whose responsibility. So now the debate, the perennial debate, the permanent debate between the market and the states comes into the picture. Whether higher education is the responsibility of the state or it can be outsourced to the market. Because in America, the higher education almost has been outsourced to the market. So it depends upon the market. Even the so-called public universities also, the funding by the state has come down, and their funding sources are entirely different. They have and they get their resources from their alumni association. They get their resources from students' fee, etc. So American universities are not so much dependent upon the state funding. And the leading American universities, whether it is Harvard, whether are Yale, and etc., all the leading American universities are basically private universities. So, so now the question arises that higher education responsibility of the state, or it is the responsibility of the market. In a large country like India, who pursues the welfare model, etc., here still the higher education is the responsibility of the state, and the state has been shouldering this responsibility. Now we have around more than 1,000 universities are here in India. And in this 1,000, I think a large number of universities are the public universities. The private universities occupy a very small space, but gradually their number is rising. So when this number of private universities will increase, and they will occupy a larger space, large number of students will be enrolled over there, then definitely the higher education in India itself will be globalized, will become more international. And it is happening in all the countries. So, with this, I'm coming to an end of my lecture, and in a very fragmented way, probably I have shared my views about higher education, about globalization of higher education with all of you. And I will be too happy, delighted if you have any query, if you have any doubt, if you have any question, or even observations, comment are also welcome, because after all, you all are faculty members. Over to the organizer.
Thank you, sir, for the presentation. So far, we have received only one question from one of the participant. So, if you see in the chat box, sir,
I ask the participant to unmute himself.
sir, they cannot unmute. Actually, they are not having access to audio. So I will read. I will ask the questions.
Acha, you kindly read out the questions.
Okay, sir. It's a long, actually not question, just observation also. So the thing is, sir, as education is open to all the supported by NEP also, still number of people, mainly rural area, especially rural women, are illiterate, without which economic development is in India is not possible. So in this present scenario, can we expect any positive impact of internationalization of higher education in India become possible? Even in India, it is observed that there exists a gap between enrollment and enrollment of higher and secondary education. So rural women and internationalization.
It's a good question, but you say this in the gross enrollment ratio in our country is only 28%. It is very low if you compare it with the other countries. Now the national education policy talks about that in the next 10 years, they will double the gross enrollment ratio of this country from 28% right now. They want to increase it to more than 50%. And that has to be done within 10 years. So doubling this gross enrollment ratio, you need the help from all possible quarters. The public resources will be mobilized, the public institutions which are already there, their intake will be increased, new public institutions will be created, but the government itself can't shoulder the entire responsibility. In fact, there are two things, this universalization of higher education and massification of higher education. So all the developed countries, the first world countries, their higher education has become universal. So universalization have had. But in the third world countries, the developing countries, and India is also a developing country. So here we have not been able to reach at the stage of universalization. We are at the level of massification. Gradually we are massifying. That large number of masses are enrolled, they are brought into the higher education system, etc. So keeping that thing in mind, we in next 10 years we want to double it. Means we want to take it more than 50%, etc. So here the state itself can't do it on its own. So here the role of the private sector becomes important. Private players becomes important. And then again, even the internationalization, which I spoke about, even if global institutions are also coming, the institutions of other countries are also coming, and they want to open their campuses in India, they are also most welcome. And we were also encouraging them. The China has done the same thing. China has succeeded in bringing many foreign countries in its country. Malaysia has succeeded. The West Asian countries has succeeded. India is also trying to bring the leading institutions here. So, when the private players are there, public institutions are there. If you are having the international institutions also, at least some they will be providing some more opportunities to the Indian students. It will aid to number of institutions here. It will also aid to the number of enrollment also. So the massification which I am talking about, which is going on and government of India is trying to massify this higher education. So here we have to welcome, we have to invite, we have to convince them, we have to persuade them that they must have their campuses in India, because the Indian talent has been recognized globally. The Indian doctors, the Indian engineers, the Indian chartered accountants, they have performed. In fact, they have outperformed. And so if the world wants to tap into the talent of India, and particularly talent which would have which will come only when the education is given to all. Large number of Indian students, since 28% is very low gross enrollment ratio. So large the number of people are deprived from higher education. If these people are coming into the higher education system, probably the world will be able to get benefit of their talent, etc. So it is a win-win situation. Internationalization will definitely help. And internationalization is not a fashionable thing. Globalization is not a fashionable thing. It is not always for profit motive. Many institutions, even the corporate houses also, they are also sensitive towards the society, etc. Because the corporate houses make their profit, book their profit from the community itself. So they have also corporate social responsibility. A lot of money they are spending on this thing. You see, Ajim Premji Foundation, the Wipro has its university in Bangalore. They are planning to open more universities. And the Reliance is also opening a university in Mumbai, the Geo. So all private players, as part of their social responsibility, etc., they are entering into this picture. When the local, the national MNCs, this Sunadar has its university in Noida. So when the local MNCs like HCL, like Wipro, like Infosys, like Reliance, etc., are having their campuses. Even Vedanta asked for land in Odisha to have its own university. It's a multinational corporation. Yeah, time is not far away when the other global institutions will also put in their money and have their institutions in this country. So globalization, internationalization doesn't mean that it is catering only to the needs of poor people only, the developed region of the country only. So if we have to massify our higher education, we have to make it available to all, then we have to allow all kind of players, and that includes international global players also in this country.
Sir, how this internationalization will help to bridge the gap between enrollment of secondary education and higher education?
Secondary education, if you look at the data, so this right to education has been made a fundamental right. So now at the primary level, almost the enrollment is almost 100%. It's 90 plus here. So I treat it as 100%. At most every village, at every places you have the free education being offered. Even a midday meal has been also started to attract these students, etc. So at the primary level, now we can say that education has been universalized in this country also. As you move from primary level to the secondary level. So his challenge is there to retain the students. So the dropout rate is very high. Government of India has come up with the many plans. So dropout rates also is coming down. And as far as the secondary education is concerned, in fact, not in the university, in the secondary education, many overseas institutions are having their institutions here in this country. So penetration, the coming of the institutions of higher learning institutions of abroad, their presence is larger in the secondary sector, primary sector, rather than the higher education. And if they are having their shops here, if they are having their institutions here, so naturally it will provide more opportunity to Indian students. Some student will be enrolled, so definitely it will adding to the enrollment of students in country. So this gross enrollment ratio at the intermediate level, at the secondary level, at the lower level will also go up, and it is already happening. You see, at secondary level, many foreign institutions are already there in many countries. In many cities there, big cities like Mumbai, and in fact, some of them are giving their degrees also from their country. So uh, I think in the Northeast also there will must be some institutions imparting secondary education and primary education who are from abroad.
So these two questions were from Anupam Sharma. Now another question is there from Dr. Sadiq Ahmad. He wants to ask in the process of privatization, is it possible to curb commercialization?
Yes, very good questions. Government, I'm not convinced with the logic of the government. On the one hand, inviting the private investment, inviting the foreign universities to have their campuses there, and then putting restriction that the profit they can't expect. Whatever profit their national education policy saying, whatever profit they will make, the same profit will be reinvested here rather than send it back to their home country. So it is because of this reason the national education policy is allowing 100 leading universities to have their campus in India. But to my knowledge, till this date, probably no one has shown any interest to have their campus in this country. So it is mainly because of this reason. Government, if wants that, because they will come here not for charity. We can ask them to come for charity, but the private investor, the entrepreneurs, they are not interested in charity. Once they have made the profit, some part of it they can pass it on as a charity. But if their profit motive is curbed, it is so definitely they will not be coming. So this is the one of the major problem with this existing national education policy, and probably government of India will think over it. And I think the overseas campuses will have their campuses in India only when they are allowed to take back their profit to their country. So this problem is there, but since just I quoted as the National Education Policy 2020 has been drafted here. Probably the policymakers will realize it, will review it, and bring the required changes to bring the foreign university. As I said earlier, till this date, probably no leading university has shown any interest in having their campus in this country.
Okay, so we don't have any other questions, sir. These are the only questions. So on behalf of the participants, on the behalf of HRDC, Mizoram University, on behalf of the coordinator and on my own behalf, I would like to say thanks for you for sparing your valuable time for us and making a very nice presentation. Thank you, sir, and we'll again contact you for some other programs in future. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. It was also a great pleasure. This is the second time I'm addressing the participants of Mizoram University HRDC. So it's a great pleasure to be with all of you. My friend Professor J.K. Patnaik, who introduced me to your HRDC. In fact, he was instrumental in bringing me here. So now he has become the Vice Chancellor of probably Nagaland University.
Nagaland University, yes.
Yeah, so he introduced me to this HRDC.
Okay.
So
Okay.
even after his departure, also you people have not forgotten me and have invited me again to interact with all of you. It is really a great pleasure, and I feel honored and privileged also to speak to the participants in your induction program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, one more just for information, because you told interacting with teachers from Mizoram. Actually, coincidentally, we don't have even a single person from Mizoram. All are from other universities and other colleges only.
It's very
but
surprising. The
that-
program is happening in Mizoram and you don't have a single participant from Mizoram.
Yes.
So
Luckily, coincidentally,
this is just a minute. This is the best example of globalization, internationalization. Yeah. You have transcended the regional boundary, the boundary of Mizoram, and it has become a truly national and truly global. Yeah. So
And,
this is the nationalization and internationalization. They are not contradictory. They are not opposite to each other. So when you move beyond the region, nation, you enter
global
in
village, global village.
So anyone from my state, UP?
From your university, sir.
My university, is there any?
Yes,
Anyone
sir.
there?
Two faculty members from actually both are from locals of Mizoram. They are pass out alumni of Mizoram, and now they are employed in BHU.
Oh, they are BHU faculty.
Yes, they are BHU faculty.
Oh, it's a great pleasure to know this thing that two BHU faculty has joined there.
Yes, and one from that I forgot DAV also.
One from
DAV.
DAV college. Yes,
DAV.
it's a constituent college of our
Yes, BHU constituent.
May-
I'm
may
also,
I know-
sir. I'm also alumni of BHU.
Yeah, about that, Manoj.